Alrighty. Well, we've been going through Romans for all of this year, for several months now. It's a great book. It's a heavy book. All right? A lot of doctrine, a lot of theology. It's Paul's like magnum opus. It's a big word to say. It's like his major work. He goes through and he lays out his gospel and goes through all those big words, justification, sanctification, talks about the work of the Spirit, all that stuff. We're on chapter 12. It's good stuff, but it's heavy. And in the midst of all learning all this theology and doctrine and these big words, I didn't want to lose sight of the simple story of Jesus Christ. And so a couple weeks back, I introduced something called the red letter moment. And it's something I want to do as we're finishing up the book of Romans, where basically I just want to go and just share a story or a teaching section from the Gospels, just where we just kind of see Jesus talk and speak and work amongst people, do miracles and so forth. And so I'm going to do that, and then Dan's going to come up afterwards and continue our study of Romans. But I just really wanted to make sure that, you know, as we're getting all this doctrine, as we're getting all this theology, it's important to know that stuff. It's good. But your relationship with Christ is based on knowing Him and understanding Him, and that's what it is to be a Christ follower. So it's not always knowing all the doctrine, all the theology, it's knowing Jesus. And so I want to kind of balance those things out. So today I'm going to read an interesting story. It's from Mark chapter 5, and I prefer that you don't look it up, actually. I prefer you just kind of listen to me as I'm reading the story. Sorry, Stacy. Just listen as I'm reading the story, and we'll go from there. So Mark chapter 5 says this: They went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. And when Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and he broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran. I'm going to pause for just a second in the middle of the action. I want you guys just to assume you're one of the disciples. Sorry, you're on the edge of your seat, right, Stacy? I want you to imagine you're one of the disciples, right? You've just got in a boat with Jesus and you've got to this unfamiliar territory. We know that because you're going to find out later on that something happens that involves pigs, and Jews wouldn't have anything to do with pigs. It was unclean meat. Even in this day, it's not kosher. And so this is probably Gentile land. It's not Jewish land, so it's not home territory. They go to this unfamiliar land, and they see this guy running towards them. And at first, you might think, oh, this is just some nice guy greeting us, or maybe he's heard about Jesus. And then as he gets closer, you get a better look at who this guy is. And he freaks you out. This guy has long matted hair and a disgusting-looking beard, okay? It's got spit and everything else gross in it. It's all crusty. And as he gets closer, he's covered in dirt and blood. And he's covered everywhere. And you know it's everywhere because he's naked. Completely stark naked. Not a thread of clothing on him, okay? So a naked, dirty, disgusting guy is running at you, blah, blah, just saying weird stuff, howling. Who knows what he's doing? But he's also got cuts all over his body. Some are old, they're pink and have scars. Others are new and they're still gross, right? I'm trying to give you a gross, nasty thing on purpose here, okay? And you don't really know who this guy is, but as he gets closer, maybe you even start smelling something. And you don't know it yet, but you're going to find out later on. This guy lives in the graveyard. He lives in the tombs, and that's where they put dead people, okay? Not a nice picture. If you're a disciple, what in the world are you thinking right now? You're going to run the other way. Yeah, I'm probably thinking, Jesus, now's a good time to call down that fire. Now's a good time to do whatever it is you want to do to stop this. I'm probably freaking out. Listen to what happens, all right? And when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. And he shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirit." And then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." Probably the scariest line in all of Scripture, I'm not going to lie, okay? "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. All right? A large herd of pigs was feeding on a nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs. Allow us to go into them." So he gave them permission, and the impure spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons, sitting there, dressed and in his right mind. And listen to the response. "And they were afraid." Interesting. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man, and they told about the pigs as well. And the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. But Jesus did not let him, but said, "Go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you, how he has shown mercy on you." So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and all the people were amazed. I like that story for a lot of reasons. One, like I said, it has one of the scariest lines in all the New Testament, okay, to me. It's kind of scary. One of my other favorite lines is when Jesus is walking through the crowd and a woman touches his cloak and he says, "Hold on, I just felt the power go out from me." I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool. But this is one of the scarier lines, and actually I've seen a lot of horror movies where that line is used. But so it's a lot of drama. You have a guy who is just evil. And I like that it's a story where Jesus encounters just this one guy. And there's a lot of cool stories. Jesus feeds the 5,000. He does a lot of things with big groups. He talks to the Pharisees. My favorite are the ones where he's one-on-one with somebody. I like it when he meets the woman at the well, the woman caught in adultery, Nicodemus. I like this story too. It's just one-on-one with somebody who has just got a lot going on in his life. So it's a lot of drama. You see this guy is just filled with demonic possession, that he is evil. He's got a lot of darkness surrounding him. And then you see Jesus, and they kind of meet. And it's almost like light and dark meeting, and it's just a lot of drama there. I like that. I also like the fact that when this guy comes and these demons, they see Jesus, they don't try to attack. They fall before Jesus, and they beg him for mercy in this guy. And that just shows me how powerful Jesus is, and I love that. Jesus doesn't have to yell and scream and call on thunder. Just his very presence makes even demons tremble. So Jesus versus Satan, not a fair fight. I like that story because of that. But that's not really what I want to mention to you guys today. There's really 2 points I want to pull out to you just before we move on here today. The thing I like about this is I like that the man is so unlikely to be changed. This is a guy who's completely hopeless. It says at one point that no one could bind him anymore. I guess the fact that they had tried a lot, that for a good amount of time these people knew about him. Everybody in town, everybody in the area knew who this guy was. He's the guy who sleeps in the tombs, who howls like a wolf, who cuts himself with stones. Okay? It's that guy. And it seems like for a while they tried to bind him, tie him with ropes, tie him up with chains. And it appears that it's almost like he got stronger and stronger and stronger, maybe as the demons had more influence on his life. And there comes to a point where it just says that no one can control him anymore. And as I was reading, I got the sense that they just kind of realized that he's just kind of a lost cause. We don't want anything to do with him. And maybe they just kind of let him go. They just said, let him live in the tombs. It's weird, it's scary, but we can't do anything about it. The guy is hopeless. Nobody's going to be able to fix him. No one's going to be able to help him. I know people who I have that same feeling about, and I'm pretty sure you do too. People who you just think they have got so much junk in their lives that they're pretty much hopeless. You're never going to see this person sitting on these couches coming to youth group. You're never going to see them sitting in a pew. They're never going to go to camp. You just know that maybe they have a lot of animosity against God. Maybe they have a lot of hurt in their life. Maybe they got a lot of darkness. Maybe they've just got a lot of baggage from all the sin they've done. They have so many kids out of wedlock, or they've picked up some sort of disease or an addiction or whatever it is, a lot of bitterness, hardness, hatred, anger. and you just look at them and you say, you know what? They're just kind of hopeless. Well, I've never seen a guy like this. I've never seen a guy demon-possessed run. I've seen people who remind me of it maybe in downtown Lynchburg, but maybe you have too. But I've never seen a guy like this. But as I read this story, what I saw was that Jesus can change even the people we consider to be hopeless. That when people encounter the living Christ, he can change them even when no one else can. And sometimes in my life, I've thought that maybe it's easier for people to come to Christ if they're already kind of a good person. You know, maybe they're already kind of a churchgoer, or they're pretty moral, or they follow the rules, or maybe it's easier for them to come to Christ. Maybe, I don't know, but I like the stories where it shows that Jesus interacts with and changes the people who everyone else had given up on. The woman caught in adultery, the woman who had, had 5 husbands and still was living with some other guy. You know, I love the stories where Jesus changes people's hearts who everyone else had given up on. And this story reminds me of that. That Jesus can change people we consider to be hopeless. But it gets even better. The second point is this, is that I love the end of this, where people are all afraid of him because he used to be demon-possessed, and that's what I would be afraid of. But when they see him with clothes on, sitting with Jesus, having a conversation in his right mind, then they're afraid. I think they got this kind of maybe backwards, but they're freaked out because they have no idea what's going on, and they ask Jesus to leave. And this guy wants to go with Jesus, and you can probably see why. Do you think he'd ever be accepted in his culture? Do you think he'd ever be like, hey, come to dinner, you who used to sleep in the graveyards and smell like dead people? Probably not. The guy who still has cuts and wounds all over his body from where he self-mutilated? Probably not. So he wants to go with Jesus, and Jesus doesn't let him. He says, I want you to stay here and tell people what the Lord has done for you. And he does. He says he goes throughout the Decapolis, meaning the 10 cities. Deca meaning 10, polis meaning cities. He went throughout this area known as 10 cities, and he just told people what Jesus did for him. He just told people, hey, this is what I used to be. This is what Jesus did for me. And it says that the people's response was they all were amazed. I love this story because I love that Jesus takes a person who's changed and he puts them to use. He puts them to work. He uses them as his representatives. He entrusts himself to this person. Nobody else does that, really. We wouldn't do that. If I was going to have a representative for me, I wouldn't choose a guy like this. I'll pick on a group, the Mormons, for example. They send out tons of missionaries, but who do they send out? They don't send out people who are, broken and everything else. They send out people who are young, 18 to 20-something, clean cut, good looking, nice haircut, white shirt, tie, big smile. They send out the best looking, most happy, cheerful people because they're trying to represent this nice, clean. Jesus sends out a guy who still is picking at scabs where he was cutting himself earlier, who's probably still got rotten teeth from when he wasn't eating anything good. He's still got scars on his wrists from where the chains had previously held him. That's the person who Jesus chooses to represent him. And that's kind of a good reminder. This guy didn't have a seminary degree. He didn't read the entire Bible. He probably wasn't even a Jew. He would have been ceremonially unclean, so he wouldn't have been able to go in the temple. He was not a religious guy, probably. The only thing he had going for him was that Jesus changed his life. That should be an encouragement to me and an encouragement to you. That it's not that you have everything together in your life. It's not that you're the perfect picture of what a Christian should be. The question is, has Jesus changed your life? And if that's the case, in my life and in yours, then Jesus can use you and wants to use you. So, Jesus can change the hopeless, and then he can also use them and employ them to change other people as well. So, that's our story through Mark. Hope it blesses you.